put one foot in front of the other. It's a quote from Austin Peck, and fitting today as I talk with Bernie Landels about finding your feet. As a parent, teacher, mother, and nana, I'm very aware of the need for adults to help children to be resilient. And I'm also aware that as business owners and professionals who truly want to make an impact, they also need skills and avenues to help others. Today, I'm curious to learn more about my guest and her recently released book. Hello, Bernie, how are you?
I'm well, thanks. Great to be here.
It was so good to connect with you earlier in the year, and I think that's been one of the advantages of the online space, is meeting people from all over. And whilst we were on a course out of New Zealand, you're actually in London, so it is fantastic to be able to speak with you. Bernie is an experienced educator, speaker, and health practitioner, and as I said, the author of Finding Your Feet. It frustrates her that people know more about operating their car or their phone than their own body or about their children. And she brings together knowledge of the human body, clinical and life experiences, along with science and research, and going where no one has gone before, to the actual baseline of our foundations. So let me introduce you. Why feet? Where did this interest in feet come from, and what has it got to do with resilience?
Yeah, it's not often you'd hear feet and resiliency in the same word, in the same sentence, is it? But just taking a step back, as we do, this came out of not being able to work during COVID. I couldn't see clients, patients, and it was sort of, what could I do to help? Having been brought up with, you're here to give. And so I sort of pondered it, and a friend said, well, why don't you write a book about the feet? Because you love the feet, you know so much about the feet and the body. And so I started researching, and to be honest, there's a lot out there for the adult foot. And what I reflected on was, actually, if we want to make change, we sometimes have to go right back to the beginning. And so I started researching about the infant foot and how it grows in the womb as a baby, and then how does a child get up on their feet and start walking. And so whilst there's a lot of adults there with foot pain and body issues because of their feet, to actually make a change for the next generations and to help inform parents and those sorts of things, to me, made more sense. And then once the book was launched and I started building the network online, because COVID provided us with those platforms, I started reaching out to people working in the fields of early years and started reading research. And that's when I made the connection to resiliency. So it just made sense to me in terms of finding your feet, learning how to walk is actually the first steps of building resiliency.
Yes, definitely. And I think you're a big advocate for bare feet. We have a video on at the moment, and I'm actually looking at a picture in my study of some boots, but you're actually interested in bare feet.
Well, yeah, I think being grounded, if you put a shoe on the foot, you're creating a barrier. You're also changing the dynamics through the body. So that's the physical side that a shoe can impact. But I guess for me, in terms of the resiliency, is that, and I guess COVID brought out resiliency in a lot of us, whether we, were resilient or whether we struggled a little bit. And, we develop it and build it through past experiences. And if we are, and I'm pleased you brought up the shoe, because the shoe is a container. It's a container that we put our foot in, and we contain it. And so therefore, the shoe is restricted. And I guess where I'm going with this, not only the feet, but if a parent contains their child too much, there's so many things available for parents on the market, bouncer seats, capsules, rocking things so you don't have to rock your baby, the walkers, the buggies, those sorts of things. And if we contain our child, we rob them of experiences. And it's those experiences in the early years that build their resiliency, that start that foundational growth. If you think about, if a child is learning to roll, so they need freedom to roll, and they roll and they get wedged up against something, if we go and rescue them, what have they learned? They learn that someone will fix their problems, as opposed to, hey, you're stuck. How are you going to get out of this?
Yes.
And guide them out, that sort of thing. I guess, so for me, this journey from the womb to walking and getting up on their feet, finding their feet, is full of these resiliency building moments.
And as adults, we're often told about grounding, aren't we? And to put your feet in the sand and to put your feet in the grass and whatever. So, it's logical that small children should have those experiences from an early age as well. So I think you concentrate on the first 1,000 days in your book.
Well, that's right. And grass, gravel, water, sand, those sorts of things provide sensory input. And and this is the thing about the feet, it's the longest neural connection in the body.
I was amazed, when we spoke last time, because I was talking about my sore knee and then my plantar fasciitis, and it sticks in my mind that you said that there is a pathway that goes from my eyebrow up over the top of my head and down my back and down my leg, right down to my foot. And that was a fact that I'll never forget, but I did not know beforehand. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Tom Myers from Anatomy Trains has, dissected out these lines of tension. And I mean, some of them are confirmed with research. Some of them are still questionable. But if you think about it, we stand on our feet. Well, how do we stand there? Our bones are stacked, but there's something that holds us, left and right from falling, forward and back from falling. And so the body-wide connection, and another of our colleagues, Sue Adstrom, has written a book about the living wetsuit. And it's this whole fascial network that actually keeps us and balances us. And, it's got more nerves in the muscles. We all, rave about our hamstrings and all those sorts of things. But in actual fact, it's this web, and you're into connection. So here's your body-wide connection.
Yes.
And so if we early on, distort the posture by putting a toddler in, I'm going to call them normal shoes with a rise in the heel, we're changing their posture. We're changing these lines, these tensioning lines. And, what's the long-term effect? Well, we're seeing it in adult issues, problems, knees, hips, and that sort of thing, because putting a wedge under your foot, it changes how you walk as well.
Yes. So when do you think children should start wearing shoes? And obviously, I've seen a lot of children with those very soft shoes that don't have soles. So I would imagine that you'd be an advocate that that's better than a shoe with a sole. But we also do just have a family member that's had a baby in the last week. So, what should they be doing, in this first 1,000 days?
Yeah, great question. And it really is about keeping things simple and thinking about shoes differently. If you think about footwear as it was in the very, very early years when footwear was, sort of developed, it was developed out of protection, not fashion. And so if you think about these little feet, they're not walking yet. Well, they just need, a loose sock, or they need to be free. If you think, are you putting a glove on the child's hand? Yes or no? Do the same for the feet. Once they start walking, yes, the soft soled shoes. Now in New Zealand, there's a company called Bobucks that make them. And there's various other ones around the world. but soft leather where it's, if you can roll the shoe up, if you can bend and flex it, that sort of thing, that's what you want, because that's what the foot is designed to do. Yeah. And so then as they start walking, there's other ones that are designed that are completely flat, that are wide for the toes to be able to spread and push off, and still flexible. And so it's about thinking it's not, yes, I'm a barefoot advocate, but I do wear shoes when I need protection.
Yes.
When I go out, walking a long distance, I will choose to wear a pair of what they call minimal shoes. So they're very minimal, they flex, they move with my foot, they've got no heel. So it's about changing the thinking, and that, you shouldn't wear shoes at home. Your house is clean, it's safe. When you go out, determine, we're going to the park, is the grass safe? Well, yes, unless there's a lot of prickles.
Yes.
So it's just changing this mindset and saying, well, shoes are for protection. They're like a jacket. We put a jacket on when it's cold. Let's put a shoe on when we need it, not all the time.
So can you draw a link for us, any listeners that may not have connected, how that relates to resiliency?
Yeah, so resiliency for me, it's this ability to overcome challenges and bounce back. Yeah. And if we have less connection in our body, if we don't feel our feet, how can we, and this is where, there's some sayings that we say, we step forward in confidence. Or, as a parent, I wanted my two boys to stand on their own 2 feet eventually,
Yes.
That sort of thing. And it's about having this internal confidence first. And the only way we can do that is know where we are in space, know where our body is, be confident as we step, as we move. It's really quite simple.
Yes. About not having the fear of taking that step and getting out of your comfort zone. Would I be right?
Yeah.
That you're extending yourself all the time. So children are extending themselves when they walk on different surfaces, rather than being closeted and in the comfort.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. And I think too, for me, and that's why this journey for finding your feet, from womb to walking, is so important. And as parents, I was guilty. I carried my son in his car seat more than I should have. And I probably rescued them more than I should have, but I didn't know any better.
Yes.
I was reading one piece of research and they were blaming helicopter parenting, the parent that hovers and rescues. And yes, that does contribute a little bit. And we need our children to learn from their experiences. And this is a very early time when we can help and when it's safe. When they have less distance to fall and they've got a nappy to stop.
And what were your drivers to look into this sort of work and to explore and research further? What drove you to this?
Well, I guess the first part was around my clients having, body issues that were lying, in the feet, or in this whole connection through the body. And then once I'd written my book and was talking to people, and I started seeing that mental health issues were on a rise. And okay, we could say it was COVID, but they were on the rise before COVID. So mental health issues in children pre-COVID, and the increase of developmental delays, the number of children that are struggling at school. As I talk to people working with young school age children, that, and even reports in the news over here in the UK that, children were turning up to school not even toilet trained. Now, okay, you could blame the parents for that, but also this is about knowing their own body and feeling their body, feeling this urge to go to the toilet and understanding different things. So it was sort of those conversations. And then as I embarked on the work, it was the mums that, you know, would contact me and say, my child's not walking yet. Is there a problem? And I'd say, hey, let's have a look. And, you know, even a mum who brought the little one to me who'd sort of skipped crawling. And it's like crawling is an important process. It's the, you know, going from belly and back to on 4 points of contact to then 2 points of contact, and really good for integrating the brain, those sorts of things, and part of the journey to finding their feet. And so seeing these mums and talking to these mums as well who didn't have the knowledge, and experts say, oh, you know, that's okay, and you get the Centre for the Development of the Children going, crawling is not important anymore because children aren't crawling. But it, you know, for me it was like, why aren't they crawling? And it's because, you know, we're containing them, we're nurturing them too much, we're not, you know, letting them lie on the floor and things like that.
Right. So what 3 to 5 tips would you give parents and grandparents and teachers in helping children develop?
Cool. Yeah, well, I've developed this sort of acronym, and of course FEET is the acronym. And we need to keep it simple. And I guess it's hard to sift through all the information. So using FEET, floor, the floor. So from the moment the baby is born, the floor is their best friend. It gives them a place to move from. It gives them the resistance to feel their body, and to, you know, kick it and hit it and feel as they move and go to roll. You know, you can't underestimate the floor. And so that's my first one. And it's a bit like, I guess, it's a place where you can create different surfaces, but you can also take them out. So we talk floor plus also ground. You've got, you know, outside grass, dirt, gravel, those sorts of things, which link back to the sensory input we spoke about earlier.
Yes.
Think about it like a diet, actually. The floor needs to have a wide range.
Well, that's true, isn't it? Because you can have a fluffy mat, or you can have a sheepskin, or you can have a towel, or you can have the grass,
Yeah.
and they're all, from a sensory input, it's varied. So
yeah, and there's some great ones that are like clear plastic, and they've got gel inside or something, and, you know, the child can move objects, but it's a different sensation as well. So that's F.
Yes.
Experiences. So with all the nerve endings in the feet need a wide range of experiences, and to be free to feel, to build these neural connections to the brain, because if we don't, then the brain goes, oh, you don't need them. And so they're not going to serve us later in life. So stimulation from all the different things that we just spoke about. And one thing that parents say to me, and I get lots of comments when I walk around bare feet, and is, oh, you're so brave. Oh, doesn't that hurt? And, you know, the more we do something, the more we get used to it. We condition ourselves. And so walking on gravel, I don't have a problem with, because my brain knows that it's not a threat, that I'm not actually going to cut my feet. It's okay. So I just feel pressure, slightly sharp pressure, but it's okay. So we need children to experience these different sensations to educate and inform the brain. Because then what it does is it frees the brain up for doing other things while you are walking. Yes. Whereas if it's always focusing on, oh, what am I feeling in my feet, then I'm losing a whole lot of other input. So floor, experiences. Environment. So freedom from containers. Let's have a wide environment, a flat environment. So reducing the time that they spend in shoes, in buggies, in car seats, those sorts of things. You know, car seats are called car seats because they belong in cars.
Yes.
And as I said before, I was guilty. They were great capsules for carrying your baby around when you've got shopping and that sort of thing. But also, if we, you know, think about the parents, carrying a baby is a really good form of exercise.
Yes.
There's a reason we were given arms. And it's the containment that can hinder normal and natural development and movement.
Yeah.
So that's really important, and it stops growth and brain development. Any containment will stop the brain developing. So that's really important to understand and know, because we've got the brain teaches the body how to move, but equally the movement informs the brain. And physical development precedes cognitive. So
Yes.
this is a really, really vital stage. So we've got floor, experiences, environment, and time is my T. Take the time. You know, as parents, we're so busy, but to spend a little bit of time watching and learning these, what they call, I guess, primal movements, early movements, are actually our foundational movements. And it's interesting, there's quite a few adult organized activities based around these early movements because we've lost them. So taking time in learning and copying even your infant as they start moving, you know, roll when they roll. It's great for our system, as well as encouraging them and modeling.
One of our favorite activities with the children is rolling down the hill. And
yes.
and our granddaughter had much delight in learning how to run down the hill, to have that forward motion happening and not being able to sort of control the movement going forward, and then having to readjust to go up the hill, and doing it in bare feet, and that whole experience of what it felt like standing upright and also lying down and rolling fairly crookedly across the ground.
I love it. That's fantastic. And that's great that you're doing it as well still. Really good for your vestibular system and your balance.
Oh, good. Oh, I have to add that to my exercise regime, rolling down hills. Okay, sounds good. Sounds good. So I'm also really big on contribution, and this whole program of podcasts is about people who are contributing, and a lot of people think contributing is donating money or whatever, and that certainly can be one way of contributing, but I believe everybody contributes in their own way with their expertise and their knowledge, and today you're opening up our neural pathways to think a bit differently about how we see our feet. But I know you also do some voluntary contribution for Brighter Community Worldwide, and it was an organisation that I haven't heard of before. So could you share a little bit about Brighter Community Worldwide? And I think it leads nicely into what you've observed and the experiences you've had in recent times as well.
Yeah, thanks. So Brighter Communities Worldwide is originally an Irish not-for-profit organisation, and I guess I was fortunate enough that some friends set it up 20 years ago, and they live there now, and so I've had the opportunity to go and visit. But also, 2011 was my first trip there with a team from New Zealand and Australia volunteering and working on the ground. Their model is an interesting one in that they now have trained the Kenyans, so they work in Kenya, to run the programs. So it's not reliant on us going there and doing the work. We go and support the work that is being done on the ground. And so I've been 4 times, and most recently was April. And just wonderful to see the work that is there, but also for me to see the simplicity of life. The organisation is based in a town called Londiani, and it works in the counties around that area. And you observe the mothers carrying their babies on their backs and those sorts of things. You see the children playing in the dirt. And I go, wow, what a rich life they have, compared to us that think we have to protect our children and have all of these gadgets and things, whereas they're happy with a stick and an old tire.
Yes.
That sort of thing. But this recent trip was really special for me, because through the connections, you know, when you're working in the voluntary sector, you know, you make these connections and friendships and countries you come from and those sorts of things. And we spent Easter up in Attain, which is the home of champions. It's the home where all the Kenyan runners and other runners from around the world go to train. Because it's at altitude, you're at 2,500 meters or so. And I had the opportunity to meet the father or the grandfather of Kenyan running, Brother O'Connell. And he's an Irish guy, and he went out there. He's been there 50 years or so. And lots of research people and people in the athletics field go and they interview him and they want to work out why he's so successful. But he's a bit like, you know, you think of athletics coaches and they're all in their, you know, flash track pants and all these sorts of things. Well, he's a bit like my dad. He had a bucket hat on and a, you know, just an old jacket on. And he says to me, you know, do you want to see my gym where I train the athletes? I'm like, yeah, that'd be great. So we wander over to a field. It's a field with some swinging bars, some tires, car tires on the ground, some steps, and that is it. Anyway, we're talking, and I'm in his living area, and I spot a small pair of shoes. And I thought, this is my opening. So I go over and I pick this up and I said, this wouldn't fit any of your athletes. And he's, no, yeah, you're right. These people have sent these little shoes for a local school to try out. We don't put shoes on kids until they're about 15. And we had this amazing conversation, and he sort of reinforced my thinking in terms of, he said, if you put shoes on children too early, you make them afraid of the ground.
Music to your ears.
Oh, wonderful. And the fact that, now he didn't know that the human foot doesn't fully develop until the age of 15, and yet he says his runners, he won't work with anyone until about the age of 15 and won't put shoes on them until the age of 15. And I said, well, that's great, because the foot actually doesn't mature until around the mid-teen years. So we had this dialogue going backwards and forwards. And, you know, he's such this humble man. You know, he's in his 70s now. He's still training. He does it because he believes in what the Kenyans have. And it's not about the footwear. If he says if someone comes home and they've won a race and they give credit to the shoe, he says the winning comes from within. It is the person that wins. And so, you know, people go, well, what about the technique and that sort of thing? And the way he teaches running is through connection and modeling. And he will put his new runners with the more senior runners. And it is through running together that they adopt the same style and the pattern, and they build their technique. They do it through observation, through feeling. And this is how young people learn to walk. They watch their parents, they model, you know, so if we've got bad posture, if we've got bad movement, then it's a little bit harder for our children. But, you know, there were so many parallels here. So, you know, I thank my, you know, connection with Brighter Communities Worldwide for opening up this dialogue for me.
Yes.
With this world-renowned coach,
yes,
who I just had conversations over, you know, lunch.
Yeah. Well, I guess the other thing is that you have to be a very resilient runner, the distances that they compete too, don't they? So, you know, that drive to keep going and through thick and thin would be another contribution that's made from their mentors and their lifestyle as well.
But also they don't have much, so they are resilient. Yeah. And also they run every day. You know, we think about our children on gadgets. We met one world record holder while we were there. It was like, oh, okay. And we just chatted with him. And his story was that he was at school they would provide lunch for the students, but he didn't like the lunches, so he would run home every lunchtime and have his mother's food and then run back. And he had to run because of the time he had. So, you know, I think, you know, you go, oh, the Kenyans, what have they got? Well, one, they've got lifestyle.
Yes.
Yeah, they've got wide open spaces. And, you know, they laugh at us Mzungus, us white people, when we go there, because they're like, oh, what do you do? We're just going for a walk.
Yes.
And they're like, oh, aimless walking, because they walk for life.
Yes.
You know, they walk to go and get their water, to go and get their firewood. You know, it's just a different way of life. So if we could embrace and go back to some of those simplicities and make more functional movement part of our life, you know, we would all be so much more healthier.
Yeah, we have a member of our YTM community who is a movement coach, and she says movement is life. It's one of her taglines, that we just have to keep moving. So it is amazing. On an aside, my mother's cousin was Shirley Strickland, who was an Olympic hurdler. And she grew up in Western Australia, but her running shoes were ballet shoes. And she used to live on a property and she used to hurdle the fences. So that's how she became a hurdler. And so she would say, I only met her a few times, but she said, you know, she was running in ballet shoes and now we have all these other fancy shoes. But, you know, she would say that, you know, you can win a race without those things as well. So, yeah.
Love it. Fantastic. What a great example.
Yeah. So if you came to a YTM event and we played Conversations Count, then you might pick up a card, which actually comes from the selection on vision and courage. And the question you would have to respond to is, who has had the most influence on you?
Oh, my mother. Yeah, I'd have to say my mum. Both as a role model, she is in her 80s and she is still giving to the community. She runs an active guide company in Auckland. She gave me the upbringing in barefoot, you know, so I thank her for that.
Yes.
Yeah, I think just her attitude and her way of life, you know, she still goes orienteering at the age of 80. She plays in an orchestra. And so I think, you know, she has made me to some degree who I am in my values and that sort of thing. So I'd have to give a big shout out to my mum.
That's lovely. And I need to ask just one more because I love the answer to that one. But the other one that's always interesting is, what do you hope to do that you've never done before? And it's a really hard one.
What do I hope to do? Well, yeah. Well, in the immediate future, I hope to travel in my van around Europe. And I'm going to slip in, go to Czechoslovakia, the Czech Republic, and launch my book because it's been translated into Czech. So I've never done that before, and I've never been to the Czech Republic. So does that count?
Absolutely. And are you going to be in Prague? Is that where you're going to launch your book? It's beautiful. Beautiful city. So yeah, that's so exciting, and absolutely that definitely counts. And if someone is wanting to get a copy of your book, because I'm sure there'll be some parents out there and teachers or listeners who are thinking about the connection between the mind, body and foot, how can they get a copy of your book, Bernie?
Well, through my website, and it's under my name, Bernie Landels. You can also Google Finding Their Feet. I've got that website linked. It's on Amazon and all the other platforms. So Finding Their Feet, it's a guide for, I think, parents, for milestones in movement for parents. It's out there. So I've got info on my website as well, and various videos that people can download and resources. Because for me, what good is use? Well, what use is knowledge if it's not shared?
Wonderful. I'll put the notes in the show notes as well. So I really thank you so much. It's been wonderful connecting with you and hearing about your contribution and the work that you do within the community. And thank you so much. And I wish you all success and a wonderful holiday and wonderful travels. And launching a book in Czech Republic is definitely something that none of my other listeners have, my other speakers have done. So that's an absolute first. Have you got a quote to leave us with?
Yeah, I do. And it comes from Buddha. And it's just a very simple one that sort of encompasses everything. And it's, the foot feels the foot when it feels the ground.
Thank you. Wonderful to talk to you.
And thank you so much.